It must be because. Okay, so welcome to Tarotpreneur, people. So I'm just going to start addressing your questions, Sarah. So for those of you that are just joining and listening on replay, Sarah's just asked why I explain the way I read tarot as having a system as opposed to maybe intuitive reading and you interpreting what you feel from the card or just interpreting the images. So the way I view tarot is like 80% psychology, 20% magic. So for me, there's a system that runs through the entire deck that we can use to identify common thoughts, common behaviors, common feelings, common experiences that we all have in life. And when we recognize there's a system, it helps us see not only what the cards are, but it shows us the solutions, because at either side of that card, we have the way to work back and go back a step to resolve something so that we can move forward, or we can see the way that we take our next step. It will hopefully make sense when I explain the system as we're reading it, but the way I teach tarot, we are going to be looking at the Fool's journey today, but we're going to be looking at it as the entrepreneur's journey instead. So we're going to look at how it directly relates to business growth, to stepping into that entrepreneurial type of life, and where we can use tarot to see what stages we're at, how we resolve things, how we move forward, how we break through, how we create success. So we're going to be looking at the Fool's journey. But the system I'm going to teach is really embedded in the beginning in the numerology. So we're really going to be focusing on the system that runs in the numerology from 1 to 10. As a sort of broad idea, the ones are the very beginning of something and the 10s are the completion. And we see all these different stages as we work through the numbers. So although we're only going to be looking at the entrepreneur's journey through the Fool's journey and the first 11 major arcana cards, by the end of us looking at that, you are going to be able to see that same system playing out in all 40 of the suit cards. So you will be able to see and understand how to interpret using traditional systems that are involved in the tarot. This is not a system I've created myself. It's going back to the roots of tarot. Once you see it, you'll be saying, oh, it's really obvious. I can see it now that I'm looking at my cards. That system is really clearly being laid out in front of me. But so many of us are, you know, we're drawn to tarot for all different reasons, and we're drawn to different decks, and we then have different artists' takes on those traditional meanings. And then there's so much symbology and color interpretation and just getting a feel for the card that we can add in. And it's not that I only work from the system, but the system gives you a solid sort of foundation to then add all those things into. So you should never only be working just from the system. You should also be adding in your intuitive thoughts, your own personal feelings in that moment when you pick up the card, if you're reading for someone else or you're reading for yourself. So it becomes a more comprehensive and complete way of using tarot by getting to grips with this system first. So I'm hoping, I know you've all sort of been involved with tarot to certain levels, and even the people watching on replay have all let me know that they've been using tarot or they've got their own decks. So there's some level of engagement there already. But hopefully this will help you memorize the cards really clearly and quickly, and get just a little bit more insight into their meanings that you can not only take away to apply to your own business growth and use them for personal use, but for those of you who read for others, it might be something that you want to look at incorporating some of the things you learned today. When I did the last course 3 months ago, the review came back from the woman whose group it was that it's her private membership group. She's a sort of spiritual coach and a published author. And about half of the participants were professional tarot readers that came in my workshop, and they all went away with something new. Some of them didn't even know there was a system there at all, and they've been reading tarot professionally. So it's not essential, but they all went away learning something new. So hopefully it just expands the knowledge that you already have and gives you a new insight. In the same way that it's the reason I collect so many different decks. I always want to expand my knowledge. I always think a new deck offers us a new artist's impression, a new perspective on a certain card, a new way of looking at it, a deeper meaning to the card, something new to explore. And that's why I like to see other people's interpretation of the artwork. That's my excuse anyway for like hoarding so many cards. So do you all have your decks with you just now? I should have probably got you to organize them first, but if you can take a minute to find the Fool card, we're going to start with the Fool. But rather than looking at him as the Fool, we're going to look at him as the Entrepreneur. So the Fool card is card 0. And for this is why I wanted you all to have your own cards, because these are the biggest ones I've got. The circular version of the traditional Rider-Waite, and even on camera with all my lighting and things, it's just so hard for you to see the images clearly. So this is card 0. So when we're looking at the system, this one falls out with the numerology of 1 to 10. So this is like a standalone card in that system. The Fool card, and when we're looking at him as an entrepreneur, this is the calling of something new. So I always feel a lot of people think this is the very beginning of taking action. There's so much here that talks about taking a leap of faith. He's standing on this cliff edge. He's got his bag packed. He's ready to go on a journey. But it's really a feeling. It's not about action, this card. This is the feeling that something new is calling you. So for many people, when we start exploring our own business ideas, this is what happens first. We have a feeling that we're not happy with what we're doing. We're discontented with our 9-to-5 jobs. It's not quite, fulfilling us anymore. We're not getting as much meaning. And there's just this feeling that something new awaits us. For me, that's what the Fool card is. And yes, then we take into account all those other aspects that are in this card, the jumping off this cliff and taking a leap of faith. If we are willing to explore that nudge to look at something new, we know that if we take that jump and we explore that further, then spirit will catch us on that journey. It's not a leap into the abyss, it's a leap into a new journey forward. Somebody raised their hand there. I don't know if it was men, but I just want to answer all your questions as they come up. This is intended to be a very interactive workshop, and I can't remember who.
It was me, but I'm good now. I was just gonna can I have a quick pause to find it? But as soon as I put my hand up, I found the Fool card. So I was like, no.
That's all right. That's all right. And it's maybe something, it's definitely something I'll remember to do moving forward. This is part of the brain fog and things like that, forgetting to do things that I had intended to ask to organize the cards first. So yeah, a couple of things that I want to point out that are just really important in this message. So the bag that he's carrying, he's only got his essential belongings. Basically, he knows that he needs very little. The gifts that he has within himself are really all that he's going to need to go forward with that journey of exploring the new thing that's calling him. The dog represents spirit being with him. So in this case, spirit has taken the form of an animal. It's shown as a companion that is there to go with him on that journey. And no matter what deck you're using, they should always be carrying a white rose, which represents innocence and purity. So it's just where we've got a pure intention. We don't have an agenda yet. We just know that something new is calling us. There's an innocence around that curiosity. No different in the way that a child explores something new. They're not, intending to do something with that exploration yet. It has no bigger purpose. We're just exploring out of curiosity. So those are some of the main features of that Fool card, but it does sit outside the system. So that is you just feeling that calling. Okay. So we're going to move on to card number 1 now, which is the Magician. So while I'm talking, if you can find your Magician card. But we really want to focus on the numerology. So the number 1s are always the new beginnings, the new ideas, the inspiration. And the Magician card shows us that we are gathering up all our magic, all our skills, all our ideas. We're feeling inspired. We're feeling like magic is within us, magic is around us. If you've ever had a new idea come to you that you think, oh, this is really exciting me. That's the sort of feeling that magic creates when we see the magician coming up. A good way to remember the magician is to think of magicians as people that conjure something out of thin air. So they create something out of nothing. That idea can land with you out of nowhere. So many people have entrepreneurial ideas when they're in the shower, when they're busy doing the dishes, when they're doing something repetitive. They're not necessarily focused on that idea or creating something. It lands with them, and that's that feeling of it coming out of nowhere. So feeling inspired, feeling like you've got this new energy. And it normally involves a combining of all our skills. So you'll see on the magician, whichever card you're using, in the traditional Rider-Waite, he's got a table with all his tools on that bench. And that shows that all his experience that he's gained so far are going to be involved in this idea. And we're going to be like really leaning into everything that's available to explore that idea fully. So we're wanting to look at resources. Sometimes it's just allowing that idea to percolate. Sometimes it's about doing a little bit more research. Is that idea viable, especially as a business idea? Does somebody else already have the business name that you're thinking of? Sometimes it requires us to use those tools to do a little bit of research. Okay. I'm just seeing everybody going through the cards. Would you all prefer if we just took a few minutes and you can get cards 1 to 10 out? Would you all prefer that? Yeah, so I think it's good. So we're looking first for the magician and then the high priestess. If you just all give me a raise of the hands when you've got those two so that everybody is keeping up. Okay. And then we're looking for the Empress, then the Emperor. Okay, the next pairing is the Hierophant, then the Lovers. And then we're looking for the Chariot and Strength. And then lastly, we're looking for the Hermit and the Wheel. Okay. Everybody good? Everybody got what we need? Okay. So before we move on from the magician, this is where we start to see the system coming into play once we see this card number 1 in the deck. I want you to think of all those first 10 major arcana cards as the leaders of all the relevant numbers. So the magician is the leader of all the ones. The Ace of Cups, the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords. He is the leader of that. So when we're looking at the major arcana cards, we're looking at them not covered in any suit. So this can be inspiration coming into any area of your life, that feeling of magic, that idea landing with you. We're particularly looking at it today in relation to business, but if you were reading these cards for anybody else, this might be inspiration about how they move forward in their personal life or how they move forward with their health. It might be a feeling of inspiration around that. when we start to look at all the aces, we can then just narrow down what that inspiration is about. So the Ace of Cups, the cups relate to your emotional well-being. So we can see that this is new feelings coming to you. It may be excitement that you've never felt before. It may be a feeling of purpose that you're feeling when you lean into this idea, that you feel, goodness, this is going to give me meaning. This is going to give me purpose. When it comes to the swords, that's the thoughts and the mindset. That is that's directly connecting with you, with the inspired idea. That is the thought landing with you. That is the inspiration, the light bulb moment, the new thought arriving with you. The wands relate to your spiritual journey in life, so your soul's growth. A good way to remember this with the wands, it was something that really helped me, is the wands are all shown as sticks, and wooden sticks can be lit on fire. When we're seeing the wands, we want to think of the things that light us up, the things that set our soul on fire. That is always what our soul is searching for as we go through life. Joy, excitement, purpose, meaning, all these things that light us up as humans. That is what the soul is seeking. So this might be, something that is good for the soul. It might be feeling drawn to a particular place, feeling inspired. For example, Sarah, you're constantly feeling like your soul has got this draw to Scotland. You've got that idea. You know, something is drawing you here. So that would be something that is a new idea, something that is sparking a curiosity or a longing within the soul. And then the pentacles relate to the material and physical things we need in life. So we're looking with the pentacles at career, finances, and also physical health. And the Ace of Pentacles show us a new opportunity. We've always got those open gates. And we've got that large coin being offered to us. So these are new opportunities. So do you see how with the wands it's very clear that actually the magician filters through the same message through every single suit? It's all about inspiration, ideas, that freshness, that newness with the ones. It's the very beginning of your journey. So as an entrepreneur, that's your business idea landing with you. That's you deciding, hey, I want to be a meditation teacher. I want to be a herbalist. I want to be an author. I want to be a medium. That feels good to me. I'm really drawn to that work. I am curious about that work. I want to learn more. It's lighting my soul up. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling inspired. It feels like there's magic when you think about that. That is the magician. The second one is the High Priestess. And this is one of my personal favorite cards because she essentially, if she had a job, it would be this. It would be, working with spirit in some way. But the twos, we want to focus mainly on the numbers till you get to grips with this system. The twos are all about decision making. It's a really easy one to remember. Do I want to do it this way or that way? Do I want to go down path A or path B? Do I want to have that person help me or that person help me? So when we're thinking about a business, if we take mediumship as something you've all explored, it's a nice, topic that we can all identify with. This is you deciding what type of divination do I want to practice? Am I a tarot reader? Is that what I want to do? Am I somebody that's going to read oracle cards? Am I just going to do pure mediumship? Do I want to take this business online? Do I want to see people in person? That is your decision making about that idea, that inspiration that's came to you with the magician. The story behind the image on this, she's always sat in between these two pillars. And the B&J does not represent other things. It's not like your partner's birthday or anything like that. It's not like steak and BJ night. It's nothing like that. The B and the J represent two columns that were believed to be stood outside King Solomon's temple. And they represent two sort of people, Boaz and Yashin. I always pronounce Yashin wrong, but I've been informed that is how we're supposed to say it with the J. And these two temples, pillars were there at the entrance to this temple. So if you think about when we're making decisions, entering that temple is to go in and get that clarity. When we go into a church or a sacred place, we're entering in there to talk to the universe, talk to God or higher self, whatever we connect with that higher power. It's a sacred place that we're entering. And we generally go there to get clarity, to get peace, to get answers, to get confirmation that our decisions are right. We're looking for some sort of confirmation. These two pillars were really important because it was believed that they were hollow, and that as people were entering, they could choose to leave their emotional baggage, their spiritual baggage, the things that were weighing them down, their indecision, any of these things that were causing that lack of clarity, they could leave in those pillars. And they had the choice when they came out, do you want to pick that back up again, or do you want to leave it in the temple? Most people would leave what was there because they've went into that church, they've received healing, they've received the clarity, they've received the confirmation, and they come out not needing to, you know, pick up those things that maybe self-doubt or questioning what other people will think. We've went in there and we've got that clarity. So when you're at this stage in your idea, you know, we've got the idea and then we're working it out. This is really, if this comes up in a reading for yourself when you're using tarot for business guidance, we want to look at creating that sacred space, that stillness for decision making, for getting that clarity, for speaking to God, your angels, the universe. That gives us the action that we want to take. And again, when we look at that through all the twos, we see decisions being asked of us. Two of Pentacles, for example, and I'm intentionally going between this deck, which we all have, and my favorite working deck, which is called the Thelema Tarot, which is still based on the Rider-Waite system, but it's the one I use in my everyday work. It's the one I connect with most. But there we're seeing somebody juggling those pentacles. They're deciding, what way am I going to go? What skills am I going to use? So think about this, you know, am I going to go online? Am I going to take my business online, or do I want to see people in person? That's a decision that needs to be made. We need to decide. We cannot keep juggling. If we're just juggling that question back and forward, we're not going to make progress. We're going to be stuck in that decision-making process. Same with the swords. You're being asked to pick a train of thought, make a clear decision, take the blindfold off that she's got on in the center of that. If we're not looking at all avenues and what's possible for us, and we're sitting there thinking, I don't know what's best for me, I don't know what I want, I don't know, you keep going back to the solution that's been offered here. Tap into your spiritual self, talk to your guides, talk to your higher self, take that time to meditate, get those decisions. Is that clear for everybody with these two? Has this so far given you any extra insight into things you maybe didn't know about even just these two cards? Okay. And what we can see, what I want to start showing you is how they all connect. So if you're using these for yourself, the way I'm sort of teaching this is for business growth. So you want to be identifying what stage am I at with my business, with my entrepreneurial ideas. Where am I? Am I still at number 1, or am I sitting in this 2, or maybe you're at a 9? But we want to be thinking about this, and that gives you your answer. If you can't make a decision, there's something wrong with the idea, so we want to go back and ask for more clarity on the idea. We can always work to the card behind us and the card in front of us in the system, in the sequence. So we go back to that table. Am I taking all my skills into account? You know, a lot of time people think, I'm not sure if I can do this. I'm so new to this. I don't know if that's relevant. But normally when we look at the magician, he's shown us that we have all the tools required. Sometimes it's us acknowledging that we have transferable skills. If we've came out of a corporate 9-to-5 job and we're moving into spiritual work, your skills are transferable. Your admin, your marketing, your organization, your customer service, they're all going to be relevant in your new spiritual job. So it's going back and just examining that idea again. So card number 3 is the Empress, and she is the mother in the tarot deck. She's always shown as pregnant. It's a card that shows fertility, but really what we're looking at here is action. If you think about the act of giving birth, it is one of the most physical, active things that a woman can do in her life. It is creativity in action. So when we see this, I want you to think the ground's fertile for you to take action. Now is the time to be stepping up. And if we look at the process, we've had the idea with the magician, we've decided on some essential things of how we're going to put that business together. So we need to become the Empress. It's time for us to birth that new idea out into the world. It's time to step up and take action and make that happen. So this would be, for example, your first mediumship practice. This will be okay. I've learned about it. I know what I want to do. I know what I want to explore. Now it's time for me to start actually taking action. Let's see what it looks like and feels like when I do a mediumship reading for somebody else. You know, or let's test that idea. Let's build that website and see if people start booking. It's the taking the action. And again, if you feel you get stuck on this, you go back to that clarity, you go back to the healing, you go back to leaving your self-doubt in the columns. Every single card has an option to move backwards until you feel comfortable with that stage. So again, when you look at the 3s, you will see action. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I
No.
ask about the thing? Nobody's been able to tell me about this. Can you tell me about the thing that looks like the Ouija board dealio on here?
So that is just showing. So if you look at the card before, she's been in that temple. That is her saying, knowing that she has got spirit guiding her and that she can move into action, knowing that she can tap into that high priestess energy. She can tap into spirit, her gods, her angels. I know it's the planchette, but I think if we think of how a Ouija board works, it's to get answers. You've got your yes, your no, you ask who's there and it moves it. It's about those answers. So it's just a little reminder that if you're struggling to take action, check in. What is the answer I need? How do I do this? Okay. What's the next step I need to take? It's just showing that she has that spiritual guidance with her.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And interestingly, Sarah, do you know, it's an important part. If you look at nearly every other deck, that is taken away from the artwork. Don't know why, because it's such a symbolic message there to say that, hey, spirit is with you. You're not taking this action alone. You can check in and you can ask spirit at any point. Can you support me? Can you give me clarity? Can you give me the courage to take this next step, this action? So it's shown that she's got that communication there with spirit because she's built it in stage 2. She's built it when she's went into this temple.
I really appreciate you calling that out because as I'm looking at mine, I don't have mine. I don't like mine doesn't have that. So
yeah, it's, do you know, it's why, Bonnie, when anybody is, you know, beginning to learn tarot, I always ask them to go to the original Rider-Waite. Although we've got the same systems playing out in anything that's based on Rider-Waite, you'll get certain symbols missing. And in some cases, you'll get extra additional symbols added that give maybe something else. But I think when we don't know this, you know, I know that's there without looking at that card. So it's something that I tend to see, even though this one that I use in the card deck that I use normally doesn't have it. Yeah. So it's sort of missing from some of them. And that's why I always think you start from that and it will just give you a more comprehensive view. And yeah, fine, Bonnie, go and get your other deck. That's absolutely fine. So we'll just look at some of the 3s while Bonnie's getting that so we don't move on past where she's at. But if you look at any of the 3s, the Pentacles, we've got somebody, I should have actually had the other deck because of this, but we've got somebody taking action there. They are busy working, she is painting. If you got Has anybody got that in the Rider Waite one? I'll wait till I see it. I've got the rest of this deck here. But yeah, and you know, these are things that even at this stage, I wouldn't worry too much about what deck you're using, as long as you're sticking with this numerology at the moment to really grasp the system that's in here. That's transferable, whether we've got certain symbols or not, we've got the idea. And I personally found it much easier to understand the full deck rather than seeing 78 individual cards. We're basically we're learning 50 of those 78 in a very short space of time here. Okay. Oh, that's the five of Pentacles, I think, is it not? Oh, okay, the three. So yeah, it is the three. So yeah, we've got people, they're busy, they're talking. In this one, something that's really important is that collaboration. Sometimes in order to take action, we have to collaborate with others. You know, when I started my business, for example, I had no idea how to build a website, and I initially got a company to do that for me. And then I decided that was a really bad idea, because every time I wanted something changed, I had to pay them money to change it. So I took time out and learned how to code WordPress and build my own website so that I was never in that position again. So, you know, but sometimes to just get the idea off the ground and step into action, we need some people to help us. So that's that collaboration. And there's, you know, it's a busy scene there. So again, you're seeing action, there's movement, there's people talking, there's engagement in that card, Sarah. So, and you'll see it through all the other threes. The Three of Wands is a nice one. We see somebody ready to go on that journey. And I always look at this, it's a really clear one for seeing the system in action in that entire card. They've got 3 wands there, 2 are at either side because they've already passed level 1 and level 2, if you like. They've had the inspiration, they've made the decisions. And then that third one, they're physically using as a walking stick to take action. They're ready to go on that journey. They're ready to get this idea up and running and take action on it. So it's a nice one to look at, that you can see that numerology playing out. But once you're finished this workshop tonight, it's a really nice idea if you lay out the major arcana cards, number 1 to 10, and then underneath lay out 1 to 10 of all the cups, 1 to 10 of all the swords, and you'll be able to look down that line of wands and see like, oh, okay, these are all saying the same things, but the suit cards relate to a specific area of your life, whereas the major arcana cards relate to all areas of your life. And it's generally a bigger opportunity or a bigger obstacle or something bigger that we need to move through with the major arcanas. Yeah, so the 3, they're celebrating, they're saying, cheers, we've got this, we're getting this done, we are working together. And that is also about taking action emotionally, you know, that we want to be around people that support us. We want to be active and intentional about who we're spending time with. You know, so again, there's an action there. It's about, who do we want to be around? How can I put myself in good company? How can I surround myself with like-minded people that are going to support me on this entrepreneurial journey that I'm on? Okay. And again, if we just look at that, if you look at those situations, you know, quite often we initially seek the support and the encouragement of family members or friends. But when we're doing this kind of work, certainly in my experience, when I looked for that encouragement to say, I'm going to leave my 9-to-5 corporate job and I'm going to explore mediumship and I'm going to do mediumship and tarot, you know, people around about me thought I was nuts, and you'll never make a success of that, or don't be silly. Why would you throw away that good salary and all that opportunity that's there? You're crazy. This is not right. I had to take action on that and position myself, choose to be around people who were saying, you've got this, you can do this. You're 100% a medium. This is what you should be doing. I'm going to support you in taking this action. So there's always like an action that we need to take with the threes. We always have to be actively, you know, we may be just in the twos, for example, with that. We're starting to identify who are the people that are the supporters and who are the people that are the drains. You know, they say in life we've got either radiators or drains. So the radiators, they radiate out encouragement, warmth, support. The drains drain you. They'll put all their fears onto you. They'll, you know, knock you down a peg or two. They'll tell you your dream isn't possible. So maybe in the stage 2, we're just seeing that, and we're having to enter that temple to ask for the clarity and the courage to know who to share our ideas with, who to rely on for support, the courage to break away from those that are not going to support us in this part of our entrepreneurial journey. So there's always an action. We always have to look at what is the action to be taken here. So if you just think of 3 action, you look at the 3s and you just ask, what is the action you're being guided to take here? How do we move? How do we make some movement on that? So we're now going to move on to the 4, which is the Emperor. So the Emperor, I want you to think of the 4s as security and stability. They're your sort of keywords you want to think of. He is sitting there in a really big stone throne. He's very grounded, he's very fixed in his place, he's very reliable, secure. The way I like to visualize it is that stone throne has 4 legs, 4 corners. If he was sitting on a throne that only had 3 legs, he'd be wobbling all over the place, would have no such thing like security or stability. So it's a very easy visual to remember that security and stability that we want to attach. So when we're looking at business, we've taken the action, we've started that thing. You know, we've put our idea out, so we've maybe done our first few mediumship readings. Now what we want is to keep practicing until we feel secure and stable with our own abilities in the way that we've maybe formed our offering to people. And we also want to keep going until we've got a steady income. It's really important when we're looking at this as the entrepreneur's journey that you pick one service and you build a client base from that. You keep going until you've got a secure and steady income coming in from that one thing. So it's really important here not to get distracted by like shiny things and other ideas or a million different things that come to you. We want to stay grounded. This is also the point if you're feeling you want a little bit of professional support or a sounding board. This would be the point that you go and get a mentor or a coach or something like that if you feel it. At any point before that, it's almost a waste of your money because you might be still at that idea stage of the magician. You might have not allowed that idea to percolate fully. You may still be deciding on what you want. Like that's for you to decide, not for somebody else to tell you. And until you've taken some action by yourself, then a coach or a mentor can't really help you. I know with mediumship, it's a little bit different because sometimes we need that mentor and guide to encourage us to have the bravery to practice, and we need that safe space. But you think with anything else, any other product or service that you're offering people as a business, we have to be really clear on what that is and what we're trying to achieve before we ask for help on how to make it happen. So this can be even a person in your life that you go to, somebody that gives sound, grounded advice. Okay, so again, with the 4s, you will see it all over the place. We want the security and stability in our emotions, in our finances, in our thoughts. The 4 of Swords is actually a really lovely one to look at for this because we have a person lying on, and I'm going to say the word wrong because I had it in my head 2 seconds ago and I've forgotten it. A sarcophagus, that's it. So a sarcophagus was like a stone coffin that was built for people before they went off to battles and wars in olden times. So, you know, all the men would go away, they'd get sent out to war, and those who came back and survived would go and lie on their own sarcophagus, and that's what you're seeing here. They're lying on their own stone coffin, and they're simply giving gratitude and thanks for their life. They are bringing peace of mind back to themselves. They are meditating. They are lying in stillness and appreciation. That is your key to bringing that stillness of mind, that peace of mind. Gratitude, meditate. How do we get that stillness? That's what brings us that security and stability.
Linda, I love how you read that card. I really do, because like I read this card completely different, and I just want your sort of input on this.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course, of course.
Okay, so when I read this card, I usually focus on what sword is standing out to me and where is it pointing to? Is it pointing to the third eye chakra? Is it pointing to the solar plexus, or is it pointing to the gut, you know, like, or the heart and the gut? Yeah. And then sort of what is it in your mind, you know, that is keeping from those particular chakras being open? So that's usually how I read it. But
I
I
love that, Sarah. I have never heard anybody interpreting that in that way before, but it makes complete sense when you look at that. Even the one that's lying on the bottom, you can interpret that as the root chakra, you know, the base. It's at the base, it's below them.
yes, yeah,
And,
yeah.
again, it feeds into that same, it's still keeping within the theme. You know, that's you just looking at, I guess, another layer of that. What is preventing that peace of mind? Where does the problem lie? In which chakra does it lie? Are they being true to their heart? Is it at their throat chakra? Are they not communicating things effectively?
Yeah. Or are they not using their intuitive gift, you know?
Yeah.
That's usually how I look at this. And now that you've told me that each card sort of almost echoes another card, I'm now looking at this and I'm like, is this the Emperor in the stained glass?
Possibly, because it looks like we've got, when you look at that, you can just see the arms and the legs of the person in the left side of the window, and you've got somebody almost like kneeling, looking for advice and guidance. So that is the seeking, the reassurance, the guidance, the wisdom of the Emperor. That's getting
the so cool, Linda.
Stay grounded.
I just got chills from that. That is so cool.
And I love this, Sarah. And this is what I mean about, yes, we're learning this system, but it does not mean that's all you ever take from these cards. You then use that to build on it, and you're staying true to the original system that was created within the Rider-Waite Tarot. Then you're adding your intuition into it. Then you're adding your own meanings, your own interpretations. It can even change in the moment. You know, sometimes when we're reading intuitively, we can know this system, we can know what it stands out, you know, it means. But when we pick it up in an active live reading for somebody, we might just get a feeling that it's about something else in that moment. Speak it out. Don't be afraid to disregard the system if your intuition's telling you it's representing something else in that moment. But this gives you a framework, a solid framework that you could go away, even though this course is really about identifying which stage you're at in your entrepreneurial journey. If we were doing the full lot of cards in this system, because there is a system that runs through the whole thing, you would be able to go and give accurate readings to people that make sense, and you'd be able to see how the cards relate to each other, because you're going back and forward in these numbers, you're offering solutions. You know, so we know if we've not got peace of mind, so we're just going to go back just to give examples of how we move between these. I've lost her. I don't know where she's gone. I'm looking for the Empress, but she's disappeared. But she's the card before. Thank you, Sarah. So if we're not feeling peace of mind, if we're not feeling grateful, if we're not feeling that stillness, that calmness, we go back a step and we move into action. Sometimes we need to take the step. So if you think about not feeling secure and grounded like the Emperor in your readings, so you feel like, actually, I don't feel confident, I don't feel secure in this, we go back to 3, we step in action, we practice more, we practice for more strangers, we get more experience under our belt, until we feel that. So we can always move to the step behind, and we always know that when we're working on the action, for example, when we're in the 3, we know, hey, if we keep practicing, even though this feels uncomfortable right now, I know the next stage for me is that 4. It's that security, stability, confidence in what I'm doing. So we know what comes next, and we know we can see, we can go in between the 2 cards. So you've got a meaning, but you've also got a solution, and you've got ways that we can actively interpret these cards into tangible actions that people can take.
Linda, how do you interpret this card?
So this is about security with your finances. So if you think about that with security in how you get your money, how your income's made. He's holding some in his hand, which is what he's got. The 2 under his feet is wasted money. That's where he's squandered money, or he's did things before that make him feel uncomfortable, make him feel that sort of physical lack, that I've only got what I've got just now, and the money that I've got is all that I've got. And, you know, the rest of it might not come again. The money on his head, money is money that he's manifesting. It's not quite there yet. It's coming from his 3rd eye. So this is the money that he knows he might have coming in. So what we want to do when that card comes up, we want to really work on how do we bring security and stability in our finances. We firstly have to like acknowledge where we're wasting money, where these 2 under his feet are being squandered, wasted, where we're not taking responsibility for the income that we do have, and where we can work on how we're going to manifest more.
That is so cool, Linda. That is so cool. I love how you interpret the 2 on the bottom, because usually when I look at this card, for me, this is sort of like, okay, where have you been a tightwad? You know, where are you holding too tightly?
Yeah.
Like there is a lack of.
It's money that's gone. It's under his feet. It's already been spent. It's away.
For you, it's already gone.
It's already gone. And so, you know, when we look at that, even when it comes to our physical health, because we also want to look at that, when we just think for security and stability, what are we being asked to do to bring security and stability to that area of our life? Even when we look at the pentacles as your physical health, because for me, the pentacles are about the material and physical things. So for me, the body is just a physical vessel that carries the soul. So that's a pentacle for me. So that's where we look at where we've burnt out in the past, where we've given our energy away to all the wrong things in all the wrong places. That's the 2 coins that are gone, that have, you know, been squandered. That's our energy that we've given away to everybody, and we've not had clear boundaries around. We then look at the coin that's there in our hands, and we ask ourselves, how can I make the most of the energy that I've got today? And then we look at what we're manifesting. What about the energy I want to call in, bringing forward? Does that mean the one on my head? Does that mean I need to start engaging with an exercise routine that is going to give me that energy moving forward and guarantee me it? Is it me making a better sleep routine for myself to give me more energy moving forward? So it's always asking you, how do we create security and stability? So you'll see it with all the cards. When you take time after this to look at all the 4s, you will be able to see, how do I achieve that security and stability? The answer's there in those cards. Okay. The 5s are an interesting one. So the 5 in the major arcana is the Hierophant, and traditionally he would have been a teacher of spiritual wisdom and knowledge. You know, you see him looking like this priest, there's people listening to what he's saying, he's maybe giving a service. He would have shared his spiritual knowledge, his wisdom, his philosophy. He would have shared that to people around him. So when we see this, the 5s are really about knowledge and learning. But in terms of your spiritual journey and in life, most of you will agree that the biggest life lessons we learn are in hardship, they're in failure, they're in difficulties, they're in times of strife, times of struggle. So in all the 5s, you will see something that is temporarily uncomfortable to move through until you learn the lesson. You'll see fight scenes in the 5 of Swords. You'll see, you know, difficulties being presented in nearly every card. What I want you to think about is a really nice and easy way to remember this meaning, that we want to look for the lesson. That's all we want to do. We want to look for the lesson of what we're going through. I want you to think about how the number 5 is written on the cards, the letter V in Roman numerology. It perfectly illustrates that journey we go on when the 5s are in our reading. We're going from a high point, because our high point is the Emperor, the card before. We've gone from this point of feeling secure and stable to having that dip where we reach a low point. Things are difficult, things are going wrong, things are challenging, things are not working out as I thought. But we apply the lessons that we're learning and we rise back up, so we get that V shape. So it's always something temporarily difficult to move through when the 5s are there. If you look, for example, at the 5 of Swords, there's normally a battle scene going on there. Really, this is an internal battle with ourselves. Sometimes it can be conflict with others, because quite often our physical world will mirror what's going on within us. But this is the, why are things not working? Why have I lost that security and stability? What's gone wrong? What mistakes have I made? Where do I need to learn new knowledge to move forward? What skills do I need to add in order to resolve the things that I'm finding difficult in this moment? So when we look at that in your business, it can be, just a nudge to level up your skill set. For example, I thought my business was running really, really smoothly. And then I think some of you found me through Jen Passel-Off when I had that chance meeting with Jen. I went to bed that night and I had 4.5 months worth of bookings come in overnight when I was asleep. I had nothing automated on my website. I had to manually email. It was overwhelming trying to organize all them. Like, it felt chaotic. It felt like that battle. I was in overwhelm. It felt like, oh, wow, this great opportunity. I'm doing so well. And then I've met Jen and it's all opening up. And then I was like, fuck, I don't have these systems in place. It felt chaotic. Temporary. What do I need to put? I need to automate systems. I need to make sure when people book, they can pick their own time zone. They can pick their day. Like, there's something to learn from this difficult experience. It's always that. What do I need to learn? Where do I need to level up? What am I being shown that I need to work through or advance in some area? Okay. So always the same. And sometimes moving away from his sort of traditional thing, sometimes it can be asking you to just check in with yourself and ask, am I applying all the spiritual knowledge and wisdom that I've gained so far to my life to this current situation? Am I being the Hierophant for myself? Starting a business is difficult. You might need to start 2 or 3 times. My first business collapsed because I did not have a good cash flow system in place. And I wasn't expecting it to go as viral as it did. And it was pretty chaotic. And again, I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. So it went wrong. And I had to go back to the beginning. I had to go back to the full card, feeling like, there's something else coming. There's something else going to develop. Then getting that idea of the magician. Okay, it's going to be the more spiritual work. I need to let go of the jewelry completely. So sometimes it takes you, sometimes that 5, you're like, okay, I really need to go back and revisit again. So you will find yourself maybe bouncing about between all these stages in your business multiple times. Sometimes you'll be working on one area of your business and you might be at an 8 or a 9. But in another area of your business that you're maybe adding on as something new, you're still at that 2 stage. So it can be really helpful for you as an entrepreneur to say, where does my energy need to be? What do I need to be working on? What are the cards showing me that are going to be helpful to me in this moment in my business? How many of you, I know we can all identify with this, the Emperor card, just going back to the 4s, when we're talking about this, taking action with the Empress, doing your mediumship readings, you might have a really good run of it. You might have 10 readings and you're thinking, oh my God, I was born to do this. This is amazing. I can't believe I got all that information. And then you get one that everything goes wrong in and you suddenly lose all that security and stability that you've built up. Like, we're always bouncing back and forward. We just have to go back. And we also see that actually, maybe rather than go back, maybe I'm moving up to a 5 here. Maybe this difficult reading is to teach me something. Maybe it's an experience I needed to have to feel what it feels like to get it all wrong. Because I also need to know what that feels like in my body when I'm not connecting well to spirit. I need to know, you need to experience that. There's no bypassing it with mediumship. Is this, I know everybody's nodding, but I just want to check, we're sort of halfway through. I just want to check this is really making sense to everybody. Yeah. Okay.
So, you're doing, it's amazing.
Okay, yeah, it's just, I just think it gives us so much framework to take away and work on with ourselves when we're relating to our business, because it can be quite an isolating thing, working for yourself. Most of you will go on to develop businesses where you're working by yourself. There is no sounding board, there is no colleague to ask their opinion, but you can ask your tarot cards. You can work exclusively. There's no rules in how you use tarot cards. So you can clear your deck of all the other cards and you just use cards 1 to 10 of the major arcana and cards 1 to 10 of all the suits, and you use those cards and you ask yourself, where do I need to level up in my business? What should I be working on that's going to help me progress? Where can I best support myself in this moment? You can make it very specific to business guidance and feel like your tarot cards become that colleague that you can get sound advice from, you can bounce ideas off of. I mean, it's my daily tool. I use it for myself every single day in my business, still to this day. So hopefully it gives you that sort of companion.
So Linda, I really like your interpretation of the V, like the low point coming down to the low point and coming back up, just sort of like in that same vein and that energy.
Yeah.
For me, when it comes to these types of cards, you know, where there is that struggle, I usually say, like, for these, like, there is a struggle, but where can you find the victory? V being victory, you know?
Yeah, I love that, say that. And it's the same sort of principle. I like that you've also picked up on that V for victory, because when I'm reading, you know, when I'm doing general tarot readings, when we take it into actually reading for people, when those 5 show up, you know for a fact they're going through something difficult. They're in that low point. And so I always explain that to them. I will say to everybody I read, don't worry, I know this is temporarily uncomfortable and it feels like there's no end to this at the moment. I'm going to explain to you what happens. And I explain the V and I say, so what we're focusing on is the rise, because we always want to look at a solution. So, you know, for the 5 of Swords, for example, yeah, we can see, hey, there's an internal battle going on here. There's conflict going on between them. I always want to identify, what are they complaining about? Who are they complaining to? And how can they take action to resolve that? So, you know, a really tangible example, so that you can start to maybe visualize and pick up on what the person you're reading for is going through. Just at the beginning of the lockdown, I'd already been putting on weight for a few years, and it was starting to affect me. Like, I was not showing up for things. I'd love to be super body confident, and I'm working on that. But that was my reality. And I felt like I was in that low point. I was complaining to everybody that would listen, to my mum, to my husband, to my sister, to my daughter. These clothes don't fit me. I feel awful. I don't want to go to that night out. I don't want to go to that event. I don't want to do any public speaking events right now. I was complaining and complaining and complaining. That was my internal battle with myself. But I wasn't stepping into action. The minute we take some action to resolve that, okay, we'll start exercising, start moving your body, start paying attention to what you're eating. It's a really easy resolve. No different to writers. I read for a lot of authors and film and TV writers, and you know, sometimes they'll come and the block here is a mental block. It's that writer's block. They've lost their creativity. They feel like they've got no ideas. And I'll say to them, well, are you writing? Are you actively sitting down and writing every day? Do you have a writing practice? No. Well, why are you complaining? Like, if you want to write, get through the crap ideas and the good ideas will find the page. You have to be like dealing with what that internal battle is. So there's always a resolve. So you're always thinking about, what is the issue? How can I get them to that victory point, that rising up of the V. We don't want to dwell on where they're at. We want to help them find their way back out of that.
I love it. It's the affirmative of where they're at, right? Finding the opposite to focus on that, to pull themselves back up.
Absolutely. And and what I like about this is it doesn't spiritually bypass anything. We're acknowledging, hey, you're in that low point right now. I understand. I know it's difficult, but this is temporary. Here's how we're going to get you to move forward. And that creates, if you just take the principle of that, when you're reading for other people, even when they're dealing with really difficult things in their life, you're always wanting them to leave a reading feeling uplifted, feeling like they've got some tools behind them now to go out and make those changes to feel better. So even when I'm thinking about that tarot, I'm always looking in general, where's their V? Where can I help them? How can I help them rise back up?
And for me, Linda, it tends to be too, like, not always, but usually if it's like mediumship too, it's usually that person they're connected in the other dimension that has the message and says to me how they're going to help themselves get out of that, which is really sort of interesting for me to experience,
Yeah. I think so. Any type of reading should always be not telling somebody what to do, but giving them a sort of roadmap to help themselves. Empowering them to feel like they can do this and they don't need to be stuck in this place they're unhappy or with what they're dealing with at the moment. Because life, nothing is fixed in life. And so we tend to think when we're in that low point, this is it, this is how my life's going to be, this is how I'm going to feel forever. And it's just not true. And sometimes we just need somebody else to remind us that that is not a truth that they're hanging on to too tightly. So that said, the next one really makes sense now that we've really explored the V's, the fives. The next one is the Lover's card. So in a very traditional sense, most people see this as meeting your soulmate, but a much more modern approach is just to look at love and compassion when this card shows up. That's how I look at the sixes. Sixes are about mainly self-love and self-compassion. It's how we resolve the trauma of the fives. We lean into self-love, we take care of ourselves. It's how we heal. And yes, that can be amplified by calling in love and support of a partner, of friends, of anybody that's going to give us that support that we're looking for. But ideally, we want to focus on self-love first, because even when we're looking at this in terms of meeting a soulmate in the very, old-fashioned way of looking at this card, if you don't know how to love yourself first, you're going to attract people that don't know how to love you either. So self-love has to come first. So you will see self-love, self-compassion played out in every single six. Even in the Six of Cups, you've got somebody giving out in the Rider-Waite, you've got somebody giving out flowers in the cups to a small child. Okay, it's saying it's not to somebody else. Oh, yeah, if you find the Six of Cups, that's the Pentacles, so that's a different one. If you've got the cups, it's a really good one, because the cups are about our emotional well-being, and generally that's what takes a hit the most when we've been through the fives. It's our emotional trauma that we're left with after that experience that we need to work on most. So in that card, you've got somebody giving out flowers to a child. They've got like almost looks like they've got a flower stall in a marketplace. There we go. They're giving the flowers out to a child. What that's shown is we want to treat ourselves with kindness in the way that we would speak to a child. Would we tell that child that's just been through a number 5 card, hey, you deserve that, you're stuck in that low point of that V, you're never going to achieve success? Or do we want to practice self-love in a way that speaks to our inner child? And she's also giving away those flowers, but she is keeping some for herself. So even if we look at that child as being her actively engaging in acts of love and compassion to others, she's still keeping a bouquet for herself. You see the one on the back? It's not out on the front for people to take. She's reserved that because she knows, hey, those people around me matter. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to lean into love. You think, you know, even we think of acts of random kindness as a great way to pick ourselves up emotionally. Do something good for other people. It's going to come back to you. But we also want to remember that we matter too. So self-love, and you'll see it with everything. The ones in the pentacles, Sarah, that you held up, it's got the scales. What that's shown is there's two people there. They're looking for her energy, their money, their resources. What we see is we need to balance that up. If we give away all our power to everybody that asks something of us, we're going to be left with nothing in reserve. So we have to balance it up. It's an act of self-love. If somebody is desperate for money and I give them all the money in my bank account, where does it leave me? If they're asking for favors and they're asking me, oh, can you just review my website for me? And could you do me a free reading? I'm really desperate just now. I'm really, really struggling. If I say yes to everybody that asks me that on a daily basis, I would be burnt out. So it's about looking at, hey, how can I balance up the resources that I've got and make sure I am being compassionate to myself with what I've got available to me. Okay, so self-compassion, self-love. That one, Sarah, the wands, that is a celebration of your success. That is a parade, a triumph. They're holding up that wreath there. That's a celebration. And so sometimes, you know, when we're in the fives, it is, you know, it's the place where we're telling ourselves, oh my God, why did I do this? I'm no good at this. It's all went wrong. That reading was horrific. I shouldn't be doing this work. What we want to do is remind ourselves of our celebration, our successes. We want to say, oh yeah, well, that reading didn't go well, but the last 10 before that, they were awesome. It's why I always tell people when you're doing mediumship readings, especially in the beginning, take note of the feedback you get, the positive feedback, because I promise you, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, you will get the odd one that goes completely wrong. I had one the other week that I honestly wish it was recorded. I've shared this with Sarah and this is why she's laughing. It's honestly, guys, it was the weirdest reading I have ever done. And I asked people at the beginning, I always ask their permission, do you want this recorded? Do you want a copy? They said no. I honestly would have breached my copyright to post it into the group to share how bizarre this reading was. I was challenged beyond anything I've ever experienced before. And I'm a really seasoned, experienced reader with thousands of readings under my belt, and I had no idea how to handle this guy. I felt like I'd been pranked, or I'd just been on an episode of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. He would neither confirm or deny any of the evidence that I was presenting to him. Nothing. And then at the end, after I'd asked him, you know, is there anything you want to ask me? He asked, can you tell me who Arthur is? I said, okay, is this a spirit? Is this? And he said, yeah, I think so. So I'm checking and I bring through some evidence. And he says, I don't know, I don't know, maybe, perhaps, maybe, yeah, didn't know anything. And so I asked him, sorry, who is Arthur to you? What relationship is he to you? Oh, I don't know. So, how do you know his name's Arthur? He said, I just think it might be. I ended up saying, look, is Arthur, like, is he a relative? Is he a spirit guide? Is he a ghost haunting your house? Like, who is Arthur? And he was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Honestly, if that had been a reading that I'd experienced in my first 20 readings, I'd have given up on the spot. I'd have thought, there's no way I am going to be made to feel this awkward, this out of my comfort zone every day of my working life. So even with that, we have to look at that and say, okay, that was just a one-off. I want to think of all the rest of the readings that I've done this week that were accurate and spot on. And I don't know what this guy was here for, but it wasn't for a real reading. He loved it and he had a great time. And he was like, this has been awesome. And I'm thinking at the end, please don't book again. So just a little, probably an overshare there, guys. But yeah, for those of you that are here, those watching on replay don't know me at all, some of them. So they're getting an insight into, I guess, the way I approach mediumship with honesty, because we have to. But that is where, you know, if you're in the fives with your readings, with your work, with your service, with your product, whatever your business is, if you've given a product out to somebody and they say, oh, this isn't what I was expecting, or I'm not happy with this, can I get a refund? You're in the fives. You need to think about the sixes. You need to really lean into that celebration. All the times it did go right, all the customers who've loved your service or your product. So we lean into self-compassion. Yes, Sarah.
May I share, Linda? I think I'm in the sixes right now, just based on like, I've had this one struggle, and a couple of people know about this, where my reading is being compared to other mediums. And I'm finally stepping into this power of self-compassion, like, no, I know I'm good. I know who I am. And I am not going to take that feedback. And I actually might even gently say, should that come up again, you know, gently suggest like, oh, that's between you and this person. You don't need to share that with me. It's okay. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, round of applause from Bonnie. That is the vibe here. Yeah, Sarah, even this, if you look at the act of comparison, whether other people are comparing us and we're listening to that and we're taking it on board, or we're comparing ourselves to others, that is the entire opposite of self-compassion and self-love. There's no room for comparison's not a good energy. You know, mediumship is individual. You will never look like another reader. You will never have a style that is not unique to you. It's a very individual thing. There are no two mediums the same. Your mediumship lands with you in a way that is unique as your fingerprint. Mm-hmm. So there's no comparison to be made. So even that compassion for self, love for self, if we change the words around, you lean into that. You lean into loving on you as an individual in the way the information comes to you. You celebrate that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, nice to know where you're at.
I think I'm at 6, I think.
Yeah. At least you're not in the 5s. Nobody really wants to be in the 5s. Yeah. So the next one, the 7s, is the Chariot. So I want you to think about this, where we've been with the 6s and the self-loves. The Chariot is about then being healed and whole enough and feeling good about yourself and who you are, that we can then extend that love out to others. It's an extension of the self-love. So most people associate this card with compromise, which is still accurate. But if we're not rooted in the self-love of the 6s, that compromise is going to derail us. You see the 2 horses in the front? That is like 2 different roads, 2 different pathways that you can go. This is you as the chariot driver, driving your life forward, driving your business idea forward, driving with your goals, your vision that you've got. If you're not rooted in self-love, you will be easily distracted by others who want too much from you, who want you to compromise on what that vision looks like. They might want you to compromise on your prices. They might want to compromise on your working hours, how long you can work, how long can you travel. If we're not rooted in self-love, we will generally be open to negotiating those perimeters of our business. You know, oh, okay, well, I'm already full this week, but I'll slot you in somewhere because you're so desperate for a reading. You're going to burn out by the following week. So it's about being open to compromise and recognizing that sometimes in order to keep progressing, we do need to compromise. It can't always look like that ideal vision that we've had. Sometimes the compromise is a stepping stone to where we want to get. But we want to be very aware that when that compromise means that we are straying so far from our vision and from our goals, that we are lacking self-love, self-boundaries, self-respect. We can only accept that compromise when we are so filled that that is not going to have an impact on us. So, for example, people asking for a last-minute reading. because I generally try and work on self-care, self-love as part of my sort of spiritual maintenance for my work. Some weeks I do have an abundance of it, and I'm like, sure, I can fit you in on Saturday, let's go. Because it's not gonna sway me off, because I've been so ingrained in self-love and practices of self-care all week. I've got the energy, I've got the time, I'm good for it, let's do it. It's not derailing me, it's not taking me off course. It's only when it's taking us away down a path we don't want to be, because we're compromising our own values, we're compromising our own boundaries. If it's a compromise that is going to get us to somewhere good. So for example, you know, I got asked to do a big podcast back in January. The day they wanted to film it was in like one of my busiest weeks, and I was like, oh my God, I'm already feeling overwhelmed with everything I've got to do. But that's going to be a stepping stone to more opportunity. So I'm like, I dig into self-care. The downtime that I do have in between clients, I'm going to really take care of myself. I'm going to go to bed really, really early. I'm going to eat well this week. I'm going to take time to meditate. I'm going to be on top of self-care so that I can say yes to this on a busy week, that I don't feel like I've got time to do this, because it's going to help me move closer to where I want to be. Okay, so if you look again, you will see that, you will see compromise being asked of you in the sevens. You will see, let me see what one's a good one to have a look. Compromise, Seven of Pentacles is a good one. The compromise is the patience. Say we can't have it all right now, but the compromise is that waiting, that trusting the process. The seeds that you're planting are going to be fruitful in your business. You know, sometimes we feel like that chariot's ground to a halt and we're not going either direction. But this is like trusting the seeds that you're planting, the things that you're watering will be fruitful. It might not give you the vision that you, or the outcome that you're wanting immediately, but you're going to get there. The Seven of Swords, this is a nice one. Most people associate this with theft or mistrust. But when we look at it from the compassion to others, we've got self-love, and we're now able to extend that to others. The real story in this, you should see even on the original one, somebody sneaking about with swords. And I think in the other one, they've got the campsite, right? So you really, in that, you get the idea of them sneaking. The story behind that is that the thoughts are his swords. That's what the swords represent, is his thoughts. And he's been sleeping in that camp that you see in the background overnight. In this case, it's been a castle, but he's been sleeping overnight. And while he was asleep, while he was not awake, think of this as being like spiritually awake and being spiritually asleep. We all had that awakening that we're more aware of ourselves. While he was asleep, other people stole his thoughts. They said things like, you're not good enough, you'll never have that, you'll never achieve that, you don't have time for that. And he's got up while everybody else is still asleep and said, I'm taking back control of my thoughts, I'm taking that back, what's mine. He is sneaking about because he doesn't want to upset anybody, because he's got compassion for others. He can extend that to other people. He's not looking for a fight with those people, but he's now saying, I'm going to take back those thoughts. I'm going to empower myself. I'm going to take back control of my thoughts, my actions. And that's why he's moving about sneakily. It's not because he's thieving off anybody. He's taking back what's his. So you will see that all the time. And again, that's that compromise. The compromise is, yes, he's taking things back, but he's doing it in a peaceful way. The compromise is he doesn't want the fight with people. He's choosing peace over conflict. Maybe he's choosing to not speak his truth and be kind and forgive somebody rather than have it out with them and tell them what he thinks of what they've done or what they've said to him. You know, he's choosing a compromise. Maybe inside him he's raging that they've taken his thoughts and what he's done to them. You know, if I think about this in spiritual terms, that would be me taking back control of my inner voice after I was bullied as a teenager. I didn't want to go and confront anybody about it. But in my mind, I was saying, that's not true what you said to me. I'm not that person you think I am. I'm going to make sure that I'm okay. And in my healing, in taking back self-empowerment, I was able to offer forgiveness to the people that bullied me as an act of compassion, because, hey, I love myself now and who I am. And I can also extend that to you. I'm in a position now that my cup is full and I can extend that outwards to other people. So the compromise there in the cups, that person is sitting with indecision. So what we want to look at is not just what is best for his own well-being, but it's what is best for maybe the collective. So that is where you're being presented with a decision. All of those cups look shiny and great, and they're all filled with magical things. But he also is unsure of which one to pick. What we want to do is not pick for selfish reasons. We want to say, what's going to be good for me and maybe my partner or somebody else that this decision involves. We want to just be extending that compassion out to other people. So we want to be looking at the bigger, picture in that decision making of what is good for our own well-being. So although it's about compromise, because again, the compromise there is you might want one cup, but when we look at who else that decision involves, that might not be the best option.
Do you ever, Linda, read this by seeing intuitively where your energy goes in terms of the cup?
I guess not really, Sarah, because that one has a very traditional meaning. So even if we look at it in another way, that person is still in indecision. They don't know which cup to pick. So even when we take away the compassion for anybody else, sometimes that's because we don't trust our own judgment. So we need to take a step back and lean back into the 60s, self-care, self-love, celebrating our goodness, celebrating what we know. And then we can make that decision based on what's right for us. We're going to be a little bit over time, so I'm going to run through these next few cards. We're going to be about 10 minutes over, guys, if that's all right. So we'll be a little bit quicker through these next ones. The 8s is all about strength. So we can see this lion in the front of the card. Lions represent chaos. This is chaos, drama, whatever going on in our life, trying to disrupt us. Something coming in out of left field that we weren't expecting. This is us being calm, controlled. We have got an abundance of inner strength. And again, you will see that being played out in every single card. Your 8 of Pentacles, for example, is somebody working really hard, embroidering all these coins. That's their work. That's about, hey, just get your head down and get on with the busyness that's required of you. This is at the stage where your business is really working. You're busy. It can feel overwhelming. It can feel like there's a lot to do, but you're being reminded, hey, you've got all the strength and determination and stamina, because you look at where you've been through numbers 1 to 7 so far. Look at all those experiences, all those lessons, all that self-love, that confidence. You can handle this busyness. This is what you've been asking for. Okay, so the 8s, in terms of when that comes up, you want to think resilience. What makes you feel strong in mind, body, and spirit? How can you lean into activities that help you do that?
Talk about the 8 of Swords.
Yep, hold on till I get the card.
Sorry, I don't have my Rider Waite, but yeah, it looks pretty.
That's all right. So the 8 of Swords, I've got it on this one, but it's essentially a very similar image. So the 8 of Swords is where you feel trapped by your own thinking. So you feel like you've reached a sticking point. That might be in your business, that things have reached a stagnant point, that you don't feel that growth's possible anymore, that you're maybe reached a dry spell, or that you feel like there's something sort of keeping you stuck in that moment, that you're not moving to the next stage in your business. This is always just about checking in with where you are being trapped by your own thinking. It's about removing limiting beliefs. So maybe looking at some of the deeper subconscious thoughts that you're holding on to that are impacting your business or your life, however we're using the cards to read. But it's always going that sort of deeper. What are your core beliefs? Where is that holding you back? Is that limiting belief true? Sometimes it's just we're really, really stuck in our comfort zone. So we have to maybe go back to the sevens and look for compromise. Even if we're not moving forward, where can we go a step back and compromise and just move to that stepping stone to the next stage? Because we're always wanting to look at how we move forward and backwards between these. The next one, Kit, is really important with that card, especially in looking at how we work on resolving that. So the next one, the nines, the leader of the nines is the Hermit. And this is all about being in solitude, going inwards, tapping into your intuition, your inner knowledge, slowing the pace of life down, not looking for external validation, getting it from yourself, finding ways to reflect on those thoughts that are keeping you trapped or those limiting beliefs. It's about doing the healing work. I always feel the nines, I associate the nines with the breakdown before the breakthrough. Because even when we look at that, when we start looking at limiting beliefs, that might be taking us back to traumatic things that have happened in our childhood, things that people that we respected have told us. There's so many things that can open a can of worms when we start reflecting on those deep thoughts. Like, we're now doing sort of serious inner work here by the time we're up at these high numbers. So for me, this is always the breakdown before the breakthrough. So if you look at the nines, you will see some kind of breakdown happening. The Nine of Wands, for example, he's got a bandage on and he's spiritually beaten up. The Nine of Swords is a perfect one, Sarah. That person is sitting awake at night because they are overthinking. They've got so many thoughts running through their head, they can't sleep. This is the breakdown. This is the moment you need to be careful you don't self-sabotage your own success and throw it all away. And if you think about us, we're getting close to the 10. We're right before that 10. The ones are the new ideas, the 10 are the completion. And so normally before we achieve something, you even think about manifesting. If you look at the Nine of Pentacles, for example, that is known as the money card. So we look at that and think, how can that be the breakdown? This is all about abundance and about resources being plentiful. But if you think about manifesting and the process of thinking about your dream job and manifesting that, the minute you've almost got it in your hands, that is the biggest point we are going to self-sabotage. We're going to tell ourselves, who am I to be doing this? I don't deserve this. People like me don't get to have that. Who wants to read my book? Who wants to come to me for a reading when there's other more established readers out there? Like, that is the point when it's almost in our hands. That is the point we're likely to self-sabotage the most. So we just need to be aware of that breakdown, and we need to remember, oh, I'm having a wobble. That's because I'm about to achieve the thing I've been working towards.
Linda, how would you recommend when you're at that 9 moment or at the Hermit card to like move to shift past it, right? To not get stuck or take the step back, but to like lean into that?
Yeah, so to lean into it, I think requires us to really go back to our spiritual practice, because what I often find with people, when we're in the early stages, that ones, the twos especially, the twos with that high priestess, she's in and out of that temple, seeking clarity, meditating, praying, like she's really connected to spirit and she is making those decisions. As we move forward, we tend to let a lot of that go. So sometimes with the nines, we have to go right back to the beginning with the way we check in with ourselves, the way we tune in. So for me, when I see this Hermit, I want to take time out. I don't want to see people. I maybe want to journal. I maybe want to go on walks in nature and just connect with spirit again. For me, it's always about reflecting and looking at how far you've come on your journey, because it's almost like we trick ourselves into thinking we're at a 5 here. And we're not. Like, we have to recognize it. No, actually, look how much I've grown. Look at where I am. And sometimes it can be things that are triggered that feel like, oh God, I've been here before. And again, it's just spirit asking you, how much do you want this? Are you ready to move? And are you ready to acknowledge how much of a journey you've been on? So a little bit of both, Bonnie, a little bit of real reflection, tuning inwards, slowing the pace of life down, but also looking like right back to the beginning. Sometimes we really have to go back to basics. Even when I feel this, when I feel that wobble, I go really back to basics with a spiritual practice, like a gratitude list every night, 5 things I'm grateful for. Yeah, the power of the pause, Bonnie. Yes, perfect. It's that, like, stop, go back to the things I know that are going to work for me. How am I going to tap into that? Okay. And then we reach the 10s, and the 10s are about 2 things really. We want to think of the 10s, it's shown as the wheel, and it is like the turning of the wheel, the turning of the next chapter in your life. You've reached completion, you've reached, I don't know, level 1 in the game of your business. It's time now to go back to stage 1 with another new idea. So if you think about this in terms of mediumships, I want to relate this to a business idea. You've went through the journey, you've been through all the wobbles, you've been through all the self-doubt, you've been through all the difficult clients, you've been through learning how to code your website, how to take payments online, all the stuff. You're now at a point where it's working really well for you. Everything's moving, everything's flowing, everything feels good. You're getting meaning out of your job, you feel fulfilled, you've got money flowing in, everything's working smoothly. Now's the time to add another service or another product or up level your business in some way. So we have to go back to the magician. We have to find ways to be inspired. What's next? Because that's running really well. It's why I've not been in a rush. I've got lots of ideas around having a book and having products again. But I've built my business differently this time, really taking my time to go through these stages. I now have a huge client list that readings are not an issue for me anymore. I'm booked out several months in advance. I have people looking for me all the time. Like, that element of my business is smooth, it's functioning, it's working, it's turning smoothly by itself. So it's then and then, but only then. And I think it's where we make a lot of mistakes in business. We get to a 4, for example, we're like, oh, I've got readings coming in, I feel really good about what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to add products and I'm going to add this and then suddenly people don't come for readings anymore, and you hit crisis with your finances and you're wondering, oh my God, I've got all these other things on the go and nothing's working now. It's because we've not taken the first thing through and let that complete and go through that organic process of growth and be really secure that that's that one element of our business that's working.
Linda, we were actually, like, Bonnie, Kit, and I were talking about that it's like, if you're going to have this type of business, you have to be really careful about your offerings, because then energetically that can weaken something that has been working or has been stable or what have you. You can't, energetically, you can't spread yourself too thin, right?
No.
But then also your clientele is going to be like, wait a minute, what do you do now? You do 20 things? Like, what is that? It just, you have to, even though you have the completion and the one thing down, you also have to be careful when you do add the new ideas and be really deliberate. And like you said, like, start at that very beginning and test it out to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. The scattered energy, Sarah, is really important. Like, I think there's a really temptation, again, it goes back to maybe comparison. I think when we're on social media and we can see what everybody else is doing, I look at some other people, I think, wow, they've got a new workshop every other week and they've got something else going on and they've got a retreat and and I'm like, well, hey, like, I've burnt out in the past. That is not my journey. That is not the way I want to build this business. I have no desire to be doing that, because I know when I have fractured energy like that, everything becomes fractured. It's not just the business that becomes fractured. I start falling apart. My personal life starts falling apart. I've been there, I've done it. I have no interest in doing that anymore. And it has been that through that 5 when it happened, when everything collapsed and I was at that low point and nothing was working. So it is about, like, not comparing yourself. This is my new workshop for this year. There won't be a million other new workshops for this year. This is it. It will be slow. I wasn't expecting 100 people to sign up today. Like, there's no way. You have to be realistic. I'm adding something new. This is not what people know me for. Maybe a lot of my clients are not entrepreneurs. Maybe this won't appeal to them at all. But I'm back at I'm in the 3 stage with this. You know, the idea's been there, it's been tested. I've decided, what am I going to do? Is it going to be an online workshop? Is it going to be a 4-week course? No, it's just this, to help entrepreneurs identify where tarot can help them become the best business owner and best creative that they can be. It's giving you that companion, that voice that can support you. You know, so stages, for example, I've brought up the tarotpreneur.co.uk domain. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I've bought it so that it's mine and I can do something with it.
You're beyond 3 on this, Linda. Come on.
Well, not really, because I'm still in the action stage. It will be a 4 when I am selling this out maybe once every 6 or 7 weeks to 50 people, Sarah, attending a time. Like, you know, that's when I'm starting to say, okay, this is working. When I'm getting better on the timings, we're 15 minutes over what we should have been, you know, so there's still, like, it's still figuring out the actions of it all, getting those tweaked. Like, you want to be perfecting your actions, and only then can you feel like, oh, I'm in a comfortable 4 now. I've got security and stability. I know when I launch this next one, it's going to sell out 50 tickets in the first week. But I tell you why it won't, if I keep going back to different ideas, different decisions, and start thinking I need to put out a new workshop every week to keep people interested. No, I don't.
So what stage do you say, like, let's say you take an idea to a certain stage, where do you, and you're not seeing a progression into the next stage, so to speak, when do you say, I'm going to abandon this idea? Like, what number would you say is like, okay, I usually abandon things in this area?
So it's really difficult to know that, because that's a very personal thing. Some people might not be spiritually aware or willing to do the work, for example, to overcome the 5s. Maybe they'll hit number 5 with 10 ideas before they're finally ready to not give up and break through to the 6, like, until it really sinks in. So it's a very hard thing to say, because at some point you could do it with all of them. I certainly think it needs to be in harmony with your intuition, that you need to realize, okay, this isn't working. I've maybe tried it 3 or 4 times. There still has to be business acumen along with your intuition. So at some point you need to say, okay, well, if we take this course, for example, this workshop, if by the 5th time I've run this, it's not creating the results that I want, and I don't feel it's a useful use of my creative time or energy, or, you know, then it will be time to park it and put it to the side and say, that's just not, it's not something to push. We should never be pushing something to a 10 that doesn't feel right for us or doesn't make business sense. There's no point in me giving up my Sunday night when I could be spending it with my son, if, you know, it's never going to get to the level that I'm going to be happy to work at. So business acumen, head and heart need to be working together.
Yeah, can I just add in there on that point? Like, I always see, for someone that's a complete ADHD, ideas central, always wanting something else, even if I get to a point, say 5, and I always see 5 as the victory, as the celebration. That, so when I was sort of artist previously, what my God, even in school, my art teacher always said, and I never did it because I never wanted to chuck anything away, but for those people that went, get rid of that, or, you know, the idea of using an eraser, a rubber to rub something out, and he's like, no, you can build on it. So I always see the thing of, something doesn't get ditched because you can't unlearn everything you've learned from that experience. You're just going to keep building on it. So even if it's different, it doesn't matter. You've learned what you've learned. And the victory would be the realization that not everything is meant to go to a 10. You know, it's not that. So the victory is, I accept. Sometimes it is your limitations, but also accepting them, and that whole pivot. And I've got a friend who's a dog psychologist, and only from online, and his saying, his whole mantra for his practice So he's the dog psychology school is learn, practice, master, begin again. And that exactly fulfills the 10.
It does.
So yeah, learn, practice, master, begin again.
That
so
turning of the...
he doesn't train dogs. He always says that. I don't train dogs, they train people, don't they? And each person, it's about the psychology of a person. To try and understand a dog, they've got to fully know themselves. So yeah,
exactly. And there's so many good points you've made there, Nicolette. Not everything is meant to, you know, be a keeper. There's also, you know, when we look at that 10, when we reach the 10, it is about, the next chapter opens and we're back at number 1. So it's constantly going back and forward. And yeah, it's also the psychology of it. You said, you know, the psychology is really important, and it's all about how much that person's willing to know about themselves and how much work they're going to be doing. And I said at the beginning, I don't see tarot as being like a woo-woo magic tool. I see them as being 80% psychology. There's so many things we've talked about today that each one of us can see, oh, I know where I've felt like that, or I've behaved like that, or where I've had to learn that lesson. We can relate to it, but only if we're willing to look at ourselves.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I got an oracle deck. It was the first one I'd got, and I use them alongside with astrology. So I'll take one at the end of a reading. And this one was the first one that came up for me. And I always, you know, I have a little shuffle practice that I do, you know, a little. So I know these things are like, you know, and you just trust, don't you? And the first one it came out for me, it was the first one of the pack. And then it came up for 2 people, and I'm like, what's going on? So I've taken it out the pack and I've kept it next to my thing, because it is actually the last card in the pack. And I don't know if you can see them. It's Gordon Smith's The Healing Spirits, but it is go within. So I keep that next to my computer, because I think sometimes that's all I need to know.
Yeah, so sometimes it is, and it's a very personal, you know, at what point do we give up on an idea? It's a very personal thing. Some people are really determined. Some people will run their whole business into the ground just trying to prove themselves right that one idea was worthwhile.
Linda, this has been so helpful though. Like, this has just added another layer to my understanding of tarot, and then to apply it to, like, because my business is my side gig, right? And to apply it to my side gig and that success that maybe or maybe not, we'll have to let spirit guide me, may or may not be my main deal, in bringing those principles in for that is just so interesting. Like, this is like nothing, like your other student said, this is like nothing they've ever heard of before. And I think what would be a really cool, like, and this is just my request, you don't have to do it, Linda, but what would be really cool is if we could have a part 2 with the numbers beyond 10.
Oh yeah, now see, I'm happy to do that, because that's just an extension of this idea, because in the last one that I done, actually, I didn't talk quite as much. I think because people didn't know me in that last one, so they weren't feeling as confident to ask questions, and this is how it was intended. I want people to ask questions, and so that we can go away with a deeper understanding and really understand what that card means to us and have something tangible to remember. But I do have all the pages, the knights, the queens, the kings, the other cards sitting here, because in the last one I managed to run through nearly all the deck, because they were like, just tell us the rest of this system. So yeah, I probably will do a part 2, but it's, you know, it's not another project. There's not going to be many other things, and I did do this before. So I had, prior to this is a revisiting of a parked idea, but with a different sort of twist on it. So about 6 years ago, I did a live week-long course. It was 5 nights, where it was a Learn Tarot course, and this might form into that if I don't have enough entrepreneurs wanting to look at this in terms of how it applies to their business. But I used the system to teach people tarot over 5 nights, and we looked at all the cards, how they all interact. We then looked at, you know, things like how to put together a reading, how to be a professional reader, what skills do you need, how do you get your client, what different spreads can you use. There's even things here that I've not even had time to get through today, like creative ways we can use some of the cards, especially for our business. So for example, the the 9 of Pentacles, which is known as the money card, you can put that in your feng shui corner in your house for abundance, which is when you walk through your door, it's the far left corner of your house, no matter how you're positioned. And pop her with some crystals that attract abundance, pyrite, citrine, tiger's eye, jade. Sit her in your corner, like use them, meditate with your cards, blend them with crystals. So it might come back to a full learn tarot for everybody, no matter how they want to use it. But I decided after I did that course to leave that in a free private Facebook group, and there's now been over 3,000 people have learned tarot from that course that I decided to make free. But I took it down, I closed it a 1.5 years ago, just because I thought it's probably time I revisit that. But again, it was that fractured energy. I'm working on building my readings. The tarot course can do its own thing just now. If people find that and they want to learn from free for me, so be it. Just let that be out there doing its own thing. I'm not giving it my energy right now. But yeah, it is. It's something that might be more suitable. And again, this is looking at your business, you know, your business acumen. The fact that this doesn't have 50 participants today, that is something from a business point of view we need to look at, and we need to evaluate, is that worth my while doing this several times? Is it the marketing? Do I reword it? Do I revisit that? But once we've tried that a few times, we have to look that, okay, maybe this is not, maybe it should be a learn tarot course for everybody, and maybe it needs to be done across 5 Sunday nights.
I
So
love how you
time.
added I love how you added the business thing to it, though. I think that's what, I mean, not only is your system interesting, but like how you added that to the entrepreneurship piece. Like nobody's done that. That's super cool.
It just felt to me, I don't know, like a bit of a standout moment that we look at the fool's journey, but we look at the entrepreneur's journey instead, because there's so much we learn about ourselves when we step into business for ourselves. It's personal and business development all in the one go, really. But thank you. So yeah, we have not got to the depths of everything that we've covered today that I'd hoped to bring in, but at least this is going to make you be able to go away, look at your cards with a new perspective, especially starting to use them as a daily business tool for yourself. No matter what stage you're at, even if you're only at the zero, the feeling that something new might be calling me. So does anybody have any other questions or reflections or anything before we sort of wrap it up? We're all good.
I just wanted to say, Linda, how much I really appreciate this and the empowerment in it as a way to really look inward and not seeking the external validation, like it being a tool to really know where I'm at in the phase of building my business. So it was very serving. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now so that we've got